Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you to Mystery Book Club. I'm Sally Hanley, author of the Holly and Ivy Cozy Mystery Series. And today is the first day of our third quarter or fourth quarter Mystery Book Club. Our moderator is M.E. Roach, Peg Roach, who has selected a paranormal theme, perfect for October and the Halloween season that is upon us. So, Peg, I'm going to turn this over to you and allow you to do a self-introduction for you. And we're especially delighted and honored today to have the author of the book,
Yep.
Alan Grimes, who also uh, did his own voice recording for an audiobook, which he had graciously given us a few free copies of. So, Peg, without further ado, take it away.
Okay, so I'll introduce Alan or let him make some comments afterwards, but we met several years ago at the Public Safety Writers Association. And I was particularly interested in our talking because I've also written two paranormals. And also the area of his first book, I'm not sure about the second one, if that was set also in Southern Ohio. But anyway, I was familiar with the Hocking Hills where the first one was set. And then we also talked a fair amount of time about ads for our books. And we were both starting audiobooks about the same time. So I particularly liked When the Lantern Swings, and I've been through it 3 times. Each time I've done it, I've seen something different. The first time I read the book, and it was more just the story. The second time, it was when I was listening to how Alan did his audiobook, because as I said, I was doing mine at the same time. And the third time was just this past week, just so I could sort of brush up on what we would be talking about. And I found that each time I did it, I found some more depth to the story, and particularly Alan's use of metaphors. And one that, in fact, this morning I had to look up what was the difference between analogy and metaphors and similes. Oh, sorry. Anyway, he had a particularly good one where he talks about the crinkles around the eyes of a character and how they resembled rivers, and then wondering what the rivers would have to say about the stories that they could tell. So, I mean, it was just, some really beautiful things if you haven't had a chance to sort of tune into those. Anyway, Alan has an extensive background in law enforcement, and he can amplify in case I don't get this correct. I think some 26, 30 years. He started out with the Akron Police Department in Ohio, and then went on to work with the FBI and a variety of situations there. So it was particularly of interest to me too, to kind of connect with somebody who I had some FBI characters in my work, and I was interested in getting a little bit of background from that standpoint. So, Alan, do you want to make any comments before we start talking about the book?
Well, that was pretty thorough. Doing the second book is set where I live now in Yuma, Arizona, but the third we go back to Lake Hope for When the Lantern Swings Again. And the audiobook has been a journey. I have much better recording equipment now. So the third book, you're going to see a marked difference between the first two. And I'm really pleased with the equipment I have. I just wasn't pleased with the sound that I had before. So I bought a new microphone that was a little better, but still wasn't at the level I wanted. And I finally got this last microphone, which is fantastic. And behind me, the closet you see there is my sound studio, and that's where that's where I do my recordings. But thank you very much for the compliment on the analogies and things like that. Um, I'm old, so I relate a lot to things that are pop culture from the past, and young people may not pick up on those things. There's one part where I refer to the 1931 movie Dracula. So, but anyway, sorry, I probably talked too much.
No,
No.
no.
Well, maybe we can start out by people just talking about their reaction to the book or how they enjoyed it.
Well, you know me, I'm never hesitant to speak up first, so I will take that opportunity to say that I really enjoyed this book. I especially love this character, the
Mhm.
policeman, because he was so you know, this character is one we wish all our police people were like. You know, he was not in the role of Punisher. He had sympathy for the people that he convicted, arrested. He that that comment about not kicking them when they're down, and how that helped him in the future because these criminals would maybe help him with information later on because he treated them as human beings even though they were guilty of crimes. So he was and he was great as a mentor to the other police in his department to teach them uh you know, and guide them as well. And the story, um you know, I was talking with someone earlier this week about it, Linda, as a matter of fact, and I said, you know, I enjoyed how the suspense was built because from the start, you've got these train tracks on the character, and it seems impossible, and you don't have an explanation at all. And like most human beings, you're looking for a rational explanation,
Mhm.
and the way that you wrote it, eh, I felt like I really was waiting for the rational explanation to come about, that it wasn't going to be a supernatural case. But
Me too.
right? And then
Yeah.
as the story worked through, you can't escape it. This is beyond, you know, anything that could humanly happen. And then I said also it was a little Stephen Kingish in having this evil force because you know the Mr. Mercedes series and the character of Holly Gibney, who's the detective, you know, they keep coming up against these criminals who are human, but they've been taken over by some evil force. And so it was reminiscent of that for me as well. So yeah, I totally enjoyed the book, and I will be looking at the future ones as well.
Yeah, opening. Okay, well, my ideas come to me as short little movie clips that play in my head. And so in this one, all I saw was a law enforcement officer kneeling down over a trail, and it looks like a woman or a girl has obviously been run over by a train, but there are no tracks. And he's trying to figure out, how did this happen? And then that became a hook, and then I build the story around from there. I should say also that um, this is based on an actual legend
Oh.
Mm.
in that area. Yes, there was actually a railroad worker who was killed a long time ago on the tracks, desperately waved his lantern. Now, which one is the actual Moonville ghost is up for debate because there were several people killed on the tracks. One guy, fell off a coal car, onto the track. But so I made up the name Jackie Hudak, so that's not the name. But the legend does say that you can see him walking around in the woods waving his lantern. And I got this from when we took our honeymoon at Lake Oak, and they told ghost stories one night, and that was one of the ghost stories. And I said, that's got to be it. Well, actually, it was a short story first, and then later I made it into a novel.
I thought it was also interesting the way that you end the first book, in that you don't really know exactly whether Jackie is gone or not. I mean, you think that because there's the question of, is it a demon sort of spirit and simply inhabiting the body? And did they both leave, or what's going to happen with that lantern in 10 years that they locked away in the safe? You know?
Yeah. And I had to make the lantern indestructible, because people would say, well, why didn't they just destroy the lantern so he couldn't come back? So then I said, nah, I got to make this lantern indestructible, so they just lock it away.
My favorite part was in the end, it was a happy ending. And a lot of times in these kind of stories, there is no happy ending, and it just leaves it open. And it was, had love in it and stuff. And I like that. That warmed my heart.
Alan, I really liked the character development with Ed, the kindly boss, knows everything type guy. Nancy, who's the eager beaver, and Andy, who's just kind of a wild card. I thought they worked really good together, and Ed's kind of struggling to keep them on point. I thought you really did an exceptional job on that. I felt for Ed. Having been a supervisor in the police department, oh man, I know the worries they have.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
I should point out too that Alan won one of the awards this past year at the conference for, was it the best book, Alan? I don't remember the specific.
Yeah, it was the Marilyn Meredith Award for in the overall category. It's actually 2. Sorry, I feel like I'm bragging now.
That's quite all right.
Take advantage of that.
You have
Yes.
bragging rights when you win 2 awards for your first book.
Yeah. So it's
Well,
the
Hannah,
Meredith.
the Marilyn Meredith Award is the premier award that they give out at the conference. I mean,
Yeah,
that is the best.
I was shocked with all the great and prolific writers there. But yeah, Marilyn Meredith Award for excellence in writing. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And
Well deserved.
then oh, thank you again. And then the one for fiction book suspense thriller, the gold prize for that.
So
Very good.
So I was so
Congratulations.
shocked. Thank you.
Gotta unmute, George.
Good for you.
Are
But
you at
you're-
the beach, George?
George is at the beach. Yes, we made him mute because the roaring of the ocean was just a little too loud, so he's been muted.
Unmute, George.
I think he needs
You can-
unmuted.
Yeah, maybe Sally, if you ask him to unmute, it might help him.
Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to ask to unmute.
My husband used to call me from Honolulu, and you're calling me from there. I can hear that wind.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, George, we can hear you
There we
now.
I'll just be quick. I don't normally read paranormal, but because it was on the list and Peg brought you on board, I did. And I did enjoy it. I found the sexual tension with Nancy jumping on Ed's lap and a few other things really added something to the story. And I was one of those that kept saying, why don't they break the damn lamp? So, it was an enjoyable, I appreciate it. The writing was excellent. I'm not sure about the end if I completely believe you or not, but I'll let it go. Okay,
Thank
get
you
me
very
muted
much.
again.
That tension was actually greater, but my editor made me tone it down a little bit, the sexual tension. So the scene was actually, they didn't actually do anything, but it went a lot further than it ended up in the book. And I was like, man, I thought that was a very good scene. But they're like, no, that's too racy.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes less is
Yeah.
more. I loved the audio, Alan. I can't believe first that you did it yourself. I was just so happy I got it. I was like, okay, my expectations were low because I like, yeah, I admit before I turned it on, before I hit play, and then I went, wait a minute, this guy is great. And you are
Oh,
really good. And you should consider actually doing it, I think, to other people than yourselves, because you are really good. I'm really impressed that that was have you done other ones or is that your first audio?
I am recording my second audio right now for my second book, and as I said, that's gonna be a lot higher quality.
Wow.
And I do have a background in radio.
Ah,
I was a radio
Ah,
news reporter before
okay.
I went into
Wow.
in college before I went into law enforcement.
Well, it was really good. And I think you could, throw yourself out there for other and do it for other people, I'm saying, not just yourself, because it was fantastic. I thought it was really, really good. And I was just anyway. And I really loved too I loved how you portrayed what felt like very authentic law enforcement, but without getting stuck in like extra weeds that we wouldn't need to know about as readers, which sometimes I do it in my own genre. You get, you just really want to show what an expert you are and you just get into things nobody cares about, but you really kept it, I think, at a great level. I love that. I have two things just as author to author. The character names, I think sometimes you went first to last. Or maybe there were just a lot of characters, and listening to audio, sometimes at the beginning I was confused. Who was who? So just,
Who was speaking?
yeah, who was speaking and who the characters were. Not when you did such a good job that I could often tell who the difference in the people, but I just forgot. One was I think it was Holtz, but he was maybe what was his
Holt
last name?
Potter.
Holt and
Potter.
Potter, right? Somebody should call him Holt Potter. And I was like, oh wait, I thought who am I now? Who is it now? But by the end I was fine, but at the beginning and it was a little hard. And the other thing a little was on the scene breaks with the POV changes. Um, a few of those threw me for a loop. But again, a lot it's because I'm listening to it and not reading it. You can't say, oh, Holtz, and look back and say, who's Holtz? But anyway, those are just, author to author. But I loved the story, and that's the hard part. So it was great. And thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you.
I also had to learn not to use because I'm learning how to do the audiobook. So there's this feature where it takes away all the dead spaces, but then that runs right into the next scene. Um, so now I've learned not to use that feature. So there's a break and
Ah.
then the next scene starts.
That'll be,
So
yeah.
hopefully that'll be better.
Mhm.
And I think I'm going to go back and re-record the first one because the sound quality is so much better now.
Another thing that I totally appreciated, and I understand why you got the awards you did from the Public Safety Writers Association, is the challenges that policemen face in the public arena. And, to be honest with you, I don't know why anyone ever wants to be a policeman because you are so under scrutiny, but you have to walk this fine line of the politics that are going on. And, this previous, the main character's predecessor was so unhelpful, right, in the beginning. And then the whole idea is just put your head down, don't say anything. You got covered because of this other guy who admitted that he did this other crime. Just be quiet. This will end after 10 years. Don't do anything. And our hero is just too much of a good guy to pretend nothing's happening and go on about his business. He just can't do that. That's not him. And you understand how difficult it is for police in like less supernatural situations than this to walk that fine political line, especially when they have a difficult crime that's not easy to solve and everybody wants, like on television, an answer in an hour's time. And it just you know, and even in their personal relationships, you could see how difficult it is not to get involved with somebody you work with because of the very nature of how you work together and how you have to trust one another.
Mm.
It's very difficult not to get involved with somebody you work with, I imagine. And at the same time, that puts you, it's interesting that your editor thought that a sexual scene might be too racy, when instead it's more, I would think it's more, and it seemed to me it was for the main character, a matter of, this is not good. You're not supposed to get involved with your coworkers. But I think that, yeah, you did a great job of showing how difficult it is to be a policeman in the best of times, and this is the worst of times in this book. So it's even more magnified.
And he's going crazy while it's happening.
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
yes. I like the character, the policeman, very, very much because you showed it. You showed him with flaws, like he always has to be drinking this type of drink. He has restraints. It's not a flat character. There's a lot of good in it, in him. There is something that he has to fight with, and I like the human part of him a lot.
Thank you very much. I had a good consultant. I'm a tennis instructor, and one of my students has ADHD, and
Uh-huh.
and, and so a lot of the coping mechanisms came from her. So
Okay.
she was so valuable.
Mm-hmm. Well, you portray that very, very well.
Thank you.
I liked the encounters with Jackie and the way you built it up, each time revealing a little bit more
Mhm.
about the situation, and the environment was really written well, that you felt like you were right in that scene with him.
Oh,
And
thank you.
especially at the end, I mean, that was incredible. I loved it. I really enjoyed your book, and I'm glad that you're writing. I was hoping you would write another one. You left the door open, so.
Yeah. And someone was saying earlier about realistic in terms of police work,
Yeah.
versus entertainment, and that's a really hard balance. At
Mhm.
this last conference, someone said that fights are very short. So, when you write your scenes, but that's not entertaining. One punch, guy goes down, you cut it and you cuff him. That's not entertaining. People want to see the big fight and people thrown over chairs and things like that. So um, that's one thing I disagree. You have to strike that balance. Remember, your primary purpose is to entertain your audience, not to be. I have wrote this it was a long time ago, but I wrote this short article on don't kill yourself with reality.
Oh.
I like it.
Alan, how did you start writing?
Uh, well, sorry, it's kind of a long story. So when I was a little kid, they had this program as part of Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty. It was called RIF, Reading is Fundamental, and a van would come out to the poor neighborhoods, and the side would flip down, and it's a mobile library. And I thought this was the greatest thing in the world. So I I go up I go up to this, and I probably look. I learned to read at a young age, and so I'm sure the librarian thought I was too young to read. And so the rule was, if you could write your name and address, you could take out a book. And I thought that was amazing. And I said, "How much does it cost?" She said, "No, it's free." So I said, "I can write my name and address." So I write it down, and then she says, "Now, what book do you want?" And I was stuck because I had no idea. I'd never read, I actually sat down and read a book before, even though I knew how to read. So I looked on the shelves and there was Grimm's Brothers Fairy Tale, and it was close to my last name. So I picked that one up and I started reading it. So I read all of the Grimm's Brothers, and that started me off in that even though they're fairy tales, they're more gothic and they don't all have happy endings. People get thrown in ovens and torn apart and things like that. So that got me along that genre, and then I just became an avid reader. And so it was a natural progression for me to start writing. And so people say, you know, how did you find time to write when I was a news reporter and law enforcement officer and those other jobs and in college? And I always thought of myself, I'm a writer who does other things, but I always thought of myself as a writer. So I got to a point where I'm going to leave my profession and start writing. I'm writing the whole time. Now, when I retired, I had more time, to knock out books rather than short stories. But, you know, to me, it's just a writer who has to do life like everybody else.
Wow, that is a
Great
fascinating.
insight.
I think
That is
George,
Great insight.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great story.
But thank you.
George has his hand up. I think he wants.
Oh, let me try to get him to unmute again. Oh, wrong one. There you go. No, George, you're still muted.
Now I can talk.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, the crowd has gone down to the water, but I'll just make two comments and then I promise to shut up. Yeah, and then John can go crazy and talk forever. You talked about having a racy scene. I'm glad you did not, because the subtext and what was going on and the tension was really great. If you had put him to bed, in fact, when I was reading it, I said, Ed, don't bet this woman, not yet anyway. And then with your fights, I also like the fact that they were not long drawn out, uh, like in movies where you got 10 minutes of fighting because they don't have anything to say. It was just enough to keep the tension high and a degree of fright. So there. Can you mute me, Sally?
What's that?
You're unmuted. We can hear you.
Yeah, we heard you. We heard everything.
I mean, can you mute me?
Oh, I'm happily going to mute you, George.
your wife's probably been trying that for years.
I think I said, but maybe I didn't. In the original scene, they did not go to bed. The more racy part was more Ed's struggle not to do it and his desire to do it, and there was more of that. So I wanted there to be a lot of tension weighing on him, so that throughout the rest of the book, this is in the back of his mind while he's saying, "This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea." But but they didn't go to bed throughout the entire book.
And I think that's why it makes the ending so much more satisfying, that they're resigning and taking off together, and so you're happy for them. You know they're going to be okay.
Yes.
Now in the second book, they do it, but it's not. I don't write explicit sex scenes, so it's like they get into bed, then your lights are off, and you go to the next scene. I don't I don't write it out because that's just I don't know, just not something I do.
That's my favorite way for romance, because I always said, I prefer to end the scene with my characters are Nick and Holly in my cozy mystery, and I just prefer to end the chapter with Nick unzipping her boot. That's all anybody needs to hear. They know what's happening after that.
Right. Yeah.
I have a question for you. What do you like to read? Do you have preferred writers? Has your reading habits changed along your life?
Yes, I read a lot of Stephen King and Dean Koontz when I was younger. And then I read some nonfiction authors, like I really love Richard Rhodes. One of the best books I've ever read was Richard Rhodes' The Making of the Atomic Bomb, which isn't just about the atomic bomb. It's really a history of science, from the early
Mhm.
1900s to now. And it's because he writes it like a fiction book. It starts with
Mhm.
Leo Szilard running through the streets of London because he just got this idea, and he's jumping up and down, and he was kind of a funny looking little guy, and they see him running down the street, jumping in the air like a little kid. So that's how he starts the book, and all of the stories are very human, and
Mhm.
so I really like that. To learn to describe characters, I read a lot of Raymond Chandler
Mhm.
Good.
because the way he describes, characters' little, ticks and foibles and things like that is just fantastic. So I try to get into that mindset um, of reading that detective, old time 40s detective style, because they
Mhm.
were, I mean, they in that era they just wrote all the time. So if you wanted to
Mhm.
contact somebody, there was no email or anything. You wrote a letter,
Exactly.
So those
Yeah.
guys really knew how to write.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I read on Kindle and I love to highlight passages that jump out at me. And you do have a wonderful style. I mean, there are lines. I'm looking at the lines now, the highlights, and the one of my favorites is now on top of everything else, he was bat guano, stark staring, howling at the moon mad. Oh gosh. I mean, you just stop when you read that sentence and you have to laugh in enjoyment at because you know exactly how what's going on for him. So yeah, your style of your descriptive style is quite. I underlined a lot of passages to learn from you. So
Oh,
thank you
Oh,
for that.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Did you find any part of the book harder to write than another, where you got stuck, or did you find it just flowed for you?
The ending was hard because I originally ended it with the scene at the train tracks, and then when Jackie Hudak, gets run over, then that was the ending scene. But then I kept saying that's not enough of a denouement, uh, so I had to bring them back and go through this thing where they resign and then discuss their future together. And then also, and the other reason is I had to I had to make the reader understand that the lantern is indestructible, so that people like George aren't screaming at me like, why did they just smash the lantern? Um, so because I knew that would come up, because I try to think of what is the reader going to say. Because I always do that when I read books and look at movies. Well, why didn't they just do this? So I try to deal with those things ahead of time. So yeah, that was it was difficult to end it. It was also difficult to transition from the actual investigation of the sexual predator
Yeah.
back to the supernatural, but I needed that because I always try to think, what would a police officer do if he came across something that looked supernatural? At first, he would resist that. He would
Mhm.
investigate it like a normal case until all of that is exhausted and he has to accept this is supernatural. So,
Mhm.
but doing the transition from there to the actual supernatural part, I had to rewrite that several times.
I like the conundrum that they faced at the beginning there. Here's this person that looked like she's run over by a train, and they absolutely refuse to believe that that could have happened. And as it goes on, they get more and more and more bits and pieces. They learn about Hatch. What was his name? Walder, the crazy guy,
Yeah,
fills them
George.
in on some stuff too. And eventually, they have to accept it. And I think it was very difficult the way you portrayed it. It was very difficult for them to accept that, which I thought you did very well, because
Oh,
that
thank you.
that was realistic, very realistic.
And also having to convince other people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because he needs help. He needs
Yeah.
help from the sheriff, and he's
Yep.
got to go and talk to him and say, hey, this guy. That's why I had to have the partial video there. Otherwise, he would never have believed him. But then when
Yeah.
you see the
Mhm.
video, But yeah, so that's I wanted him to really struggle to convince other people to help him in this fight, and then he has to talk to some other people, and he can't tell them that it's supernatural because
Mhm.
they would just think he was nuts.
Mhm.
So I thought that was very well done. Very well
Thank
done.
you.
You deserve the Marilyn Meredith Award.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh,
I just came across another one of the highlights. A character we haven't discussed is Savannah Hughes,
oh, the news reporter.
yeah,
Yes.
the news reporter. And
Yeah.
here's, I think, your Raymond Chandler influence. Modern women weren't supposed to use their looks to get what they wanted, but good reporters used every weapon in their arsenal, and Savannah Hughes was armed to the teeth.
Mhm.
Right? Oh God, that was
Right.
good. That's good. Oh. Yeah, it was interesting to have her in there as a foil,
Mhm.
create a little jealousy. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was a great little subplot. And of course, they needed her too to help
Right.
solve this. Uh,
Yes.
She had
so
the
that was,
equipment.
yeah. Oh gosh, that was good. Yeah. Quite a lot to enjoy in this book, I think. Uh And like even here, I'm on, let's see, page 6. This was, I think, the moment when I knew I was going to enjoy this book. It's page 6. So how in the ninth circles of hell had she been run over by a train? I thought, okay, there's an image, and I think this is going to be a good read. And I was not wrong.
I learned hooks from Dean Koontz because he's
Yeah.
great at those first sentences. Like Dragon Tears starts. Um, let's see. Let's see. Tuesday was a fine California day, full of sunshine and promise, until Harry Lyon had to shoot someone at lunch. And right away, that pulls you into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Been
agree.
trying
I
ever
agree with you
since.
on Dean Koontz. He's one of my favorite authors, and I love the way he takes you in this direction, and you think
Mhm.
you know what's going to happen, and all of a sudden you just make a sharp turn.
Yeah.
He throws in unexpected stuff, and I think of all the authors I've read, a lot of books, that he's the best at doing that. He's
Yeah.
the best at the twist.
I met
One
him
of
at
his
the Palm
stories,
Springs writer. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, one of his stories, I forget what the title was. I read it a number of years ago, but it was about an escaped prisoner, and he was supposedly chasing down the people that testified against him. And there's murders along the way that he attributed to him and all that.
Mhm.
But all I'll say about it is that's not what it was. But he led you down that path, and then
Mhm.
when he made that turn, it was great. It was really great. So if anybody's going to read it, it's really a good book. I can't remember the title. It's a number of years ago, and I'm getting old, and I can't remember what I had for
Oh,
breakfast,
no.
which tells that. So
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
yeah, but I agree with you, Alan. He's one of the best, I think, as the twist and turns and red herrings and all that good stuff.
And the hook.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. Absolutely.
I met him at the Palm Springs Writers Conference a long time ago. I think it was 1993. And he is a weird dude in person. He's very weird. But he told me something. He said that he wrote, before he published his first book, he wrote 10 books that were rejected and never published.
Mm.
And so, his thing was perseverance. He said, just keep trying. You have to be confident that you can do this, that you're a good writer, and that um, people will enjoy what you put out. And I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
So
I got similar advice when I wrote my first book. My first book was the MP book, the Vietnam War book, and it's historical fiction based
Mm,
in part on some things that I did. But I was like 2/3 of the way through. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It's the first book that I ever wrote. Went to a conference, happened to sit down next to Marilyn Meredith. And it's the first time I met her. And we started talking, and we must have spent 2 hours in a coffee shop. She gave me so much information. It made it so easy for me that the book got published by the first publisher I sent it to.
Wow.
I know, it was just amazing, but I attributed that to Marilyn. And she always says, "Well, what did I do?" And she was just such a great mentor. You know, I've relied on her for years.
That's wonderful.
So it's nice having somebody like that in the background. They kind of
Mhm.
eased the path, because real quick, I don't want to take it over. When I sent the book to the publisher for the editor, I was so happy. So she says, well, the editor's going to go through it. They'll send it back with suggested changes and all that. Well, the editor sent it back and highlighted all the changes in red. Man, I thought that thing was hemorrhaging to death. I mean, that was just bleeding to death. But it was better for it. And you know, and then the first thing I'm doing is I'm emailing Marilyn. What do I do, Marilyn? What? Panic mode. And she said, just calm down, do what you want to do. The other stuff is, you could leave it if you can't. So I mean, there's a little aside, we're off topic, but just a bit about Marilyn. You know, she's just the most wonderful person. So
That's
I'll
great.
shut up now.
No, that's great.
Do you have
Mm.
any other legends that you're thinking about writing about? You do such a great job on it.
I was thinking about writing a book with Andy as the main character, where he has to track down a friend that he grew up with, who was accused. He was a scout leader, and he was accused of taking the kids into the wood and murdering them. And he tracks him and catches him, and they're sitting by a fire in this cabin in the woods. And then he tells him the real story of what happened. Starts out, "I ain't no baby killer," and so I was trying to. It's a short story that I wrote uh, a long time ago based on that same area. But there are many legends. There's a legend of a guy who was killed at the Hope furnace. He was on top, and when the furnace was firing, the furnace used to um, smelt, I don't know if that's the right term, but iron ore to make cannonballs for the Union during the Civil War. And so he's up on top, and a sudden storm comes up, and he gets hit by lightning, and he falls off, and he falls into the furnace, you know, and
Mm.
burns up. And that legend is, when there's a storm, and if there's lightning behind the Hope furnace, you can see him standing on top of the Hope furnace. So yeah, there's a whole lot of legends there that I could draw on.
Weren't you
But
excuse me, weren't you talking about a work in progress that was sort of set in Louisiana or something?
yes. So the fourth, already know what the fourth book and the fifth book are. So I went to Louisiana to research the. I don't know if you've heard of the Rugaru. It's a swamp werewolf, and I thought that would be cool because Ed's usually fighting demons, and at first he's going to. Oh, come on in, honey. At first he's going to want to turn it down because he says we don't do monsters, we we, we do demons. But then there's a reason that he has to do this. So I went to Louisiana, met a great guy, Jonathan Foray. He's an expert in the lore of the area. So he showed me all the places to go, and I talked to some people, and gave me some background on the Cajun. He's Cajun, on the Cajun culture, and all of that. So that's going to be the fourth book.
They're a little wild. Are you sure you want to write about that?
Oh.
They have a
Oh, okay.
reputation for sure.
I'm sorry. I have to talk to my doctor real quick.
Okay.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
I'll be right back. I gotta put this on mute. Here we go.
Oh, well, we can take George off mute now.
Um, Peg, you want to talk a little bit about what's coming up next time around? We're all the way at 12:48, so we're getting close to our ending. You want to prepare us for, give us a little preview of next month?
So next month is Bellevue by Robin Cook. And I hadn't read Robin Cook in years, but came across this one, which is actually about, I had read something else about the development of, or the early days of Bellevue. And so I saw this one. It has to do, I don't know if anybody's looked at it yet, but it has to do with a resident who's comes across some interesting characters in the process of his residency. And then dealing, again, they're paranormal characters, I should clarify. And how it affects his life. So, and I did try and get Robin Cook to come to our meeting, but I couldn't get past the publisher, so sorry.
I started reading it, and the first chapter will blow you away. Well, actually, it's the prologue. It's very chilling, yes.
Yeah.
But it definitely pulls you in. I was thinking that, talk about I Ain't No Baby Killer. Talk about a great opening line, right? That book, huh?
Yeah.
But this one, I think this Robin Cook one's going to give us a lot to talk about as well.
So,
Oh, good.
Yeah, I do believe, well, I was surprised, Peg, because I thought he had read, or I recognized the name and I thought, that sounds familiar. And I was wondering when this book was written. So I went, and it was just published in 2024. So it was very recent. And I thought, but then I saw that, yes, he had written Coma back in the 70s and created this medical thriller genre. He was the first one to write that. And I did read Coma back in the 70s. I remember that. So yeah, it's a very different style of writing as well, I find. Well, definitely very different from Alan's book, very different from yours as well. So
well,
that'd be,
and the main characters have a different focus. I mean, medicine versus law enforcement. So,
right.
So I had asked Alan beforehand if he had any questions in case he couldn't show up. And the first was, why did he write when the lantern swings? But he's already answered that question. It's based on a local fiction. And then why he wrote horror fiction. And he answered that also, I think, in terms of the little neighborhood library. But what I was going to ask him was, did he have any other questions that he wanted to ask readers? I thought that he covered a lot. Oh, Alan, you're back. So
Perfect timing.
you had already answered the two questions that you gave me, but I was going to ask you if you had anything else that you wanted to ask people about their response to the book. Was there anything else that you wondered how it really struck a reader?
Just one thing, how did they react to the amount of background I got to the the victims? So I have victims, and then, but I kind of go into their background a little bit. Did they enjoy that? So for example, the two drug addicts, Wheel and Julie. And so I go a little bit into their, I don't know if that's just something that I kind of automatically do. I don't set out to do it, but when I start writing about the scene where somebody's going to be killed, I just start writing, even though they're not going to be in the book anymore. I write a little bit about their background.
I love that.
I like that too. Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
I think
I didn't think it was
significant.
overdone. I thought it was the right amount of background too. I mean, sometimes you go through these books, I mean, even some of the top name writers, and I get to the part where they're doing the background and I'm skipping, half a dozen pages
Oh, wow.
because it's just not pertinent. I didn't do that in your book. at all. I thought it was well done.
Thank you.
I thought it was significant to give somewhat of a background in order to have empathy for
Mhm.
characters that, oh, they're drug dealers and you can just dismiss it. But if
Right.
you
Mhm,
know
but
a little bit
yeah.
about them, you
Mhm.
know, it makes you think a little bit more about, no, that's not right.
And for me, that comes from when I was a cop, there was an older cop, and I was a rookie officer, and he said, "Alan, let me talk to you." And I came over, and he said, "Everybody you meet, everybody you come into contact with, you're meeting them on their worst day."
Mhm.
So you have to keep that in mind. So when they start getting angry and yelling at you, it's not personal. They're not upset that if they see the police and they have to talk to the police, they're having a really bad day. So just
Mhm.
keep that in mind so you don't take things personally and you don't react the way you see some officers do. And, I was very appreciative of that. And I tried to always incorporate that into my
Mhm.
law enforcement career.
And you
And then so I
incorporate,
imparted that into Ed. Yeah.
yeah.
Now he has to change because this is a character arc. So in the second book, um, he has to do some pretty brutal things to the evil um, to the evil entity because the entity cannot be killed. So he has to he has to overcome him somehow because yeah, he's wiping people out. So in the second book, um, when the pieces fall, the evil entity doesn't murder people. He he tricks them into causing their own death, and that's
Oh.
his thing. And he keeps murdering people that Ed has to deal with. So Ed's a police captain in a small town called Somerton, where they usually don't have murders, and all of a sudden he has to deal with all of these killings. And also, just about every one of them, you can't tell if it's a murder, a suicide, or an accident. So he has to deal with that too. So this is how this character operates. So the second character is not, brutal like Jackie Hudak.
Mhm.
He uses psychological tricks to accomplish his goal.
Very nice.
Well,
Sounds intriguing.
I'm very glad you could join us today.
Oh, yeah.
That was,
Thank you.
Do you have a date,
Thank
maybe
you.
for your second book, an approximate publication date?
It's
Did you say-
already out.
Oh,
Oh.
It's called When the Pieces Fall.
okay.
Oh,
it's very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Peg.
That's it.
All right.
Anybody
Oh.
have anything else they want to add before we sign off?
Just
Thank
thank you for a good read. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Me
Thank you.
too.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
Peg. Thank you, Alan. We really enjoyed this. The recording will be up in a day or two. You can post it wherever you like, and then it's forever on my YouTube channel. So I'm sure lots of people will be interested in this discussion.
Sure.
And I encourage everybody here, please write Alan a review on
Mhm.
um,
Amazon.
Amazon.
Oh, okay.
We sometimes forget how important those are. Even if you give them some 5 stars, because I'm sure you're all going to give them a 5-star review.
Yes. of
Please
course.
do that. It's very important for our
Mhm.
authors.
And
Okay.
when I'll just add, when I do mine on Amazon, I copy it and make a review both on Goodreads and BookBub because
Oh,
not
really?
everybody's going to read it on Amazon. So a lot of people will go to and you don't, so it doesn't take you it only takes you a couple of extra minutes to do that. So
Mhm.
Good
Good
advice.
idea.
Good advice for everybody.
Thank
Okay, everyone, signing off. Look forward to
Okay.
seeing you next month when we are reading Robin Cook's Bellevue.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
bye.
Bye.
can you stay for a second, Seth?